Survivor isn't just a game. It is one of the most intense psychological experiments on TV. We, the audience, are watching people deal with trauma triggers, emotional breakdown, identity, self-esteem, and connection, all in real time. Like when we watch a combat veteran react to the sound of fire, when someone gets pushed so far to their emotional brink that they have to leave the game, or when we see moments of raw human connection that completely shifts how we view not only the game, but the world. Quick note before I really get into things in this video. Everything that I am about to say here is based off of a heavily edited TV show and what we are shown as the viewing public. If you're new around here, I'm Colleen and I am a licensed therapist in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Nothing that I am about to say indicates a diagnosis of any kind for any of the people that I will be talking about. I have no information on them specifically. This is just observations from a mental health professional of things we view on TV. With that being said, these are 5 moments that I think exhibit mental health in a really strong way on Survivor. I want us to start off with a positive way that mental health is on display in Survivor with the absolutely iconic Cirie Fields and getting off the couch. We as an audience first meet Cirie Fields in Panama, describing herself as someone who was not athletic, not outdoorsy, not the person you'd expect to thrive in this environment. But that moment that she got off the couch became a huge symbol in Survivor. And honestly, I love it. From a mental health perspective, we call this behavioral activation. You don't wait to do something until you are confident. You act first and then the confidence builds. Cirie is a perfect example of this because she was not confident when she started her journey on Survivor. Cirie gained that experience through 5 U.S. seasons, as well as 1 season of Australia versus the Worlds, leading to her becoming one of the absolute greatest Survivor castaways of all time, showing us vulnerability and strength, showing us determination, showing us who she is at her core. But here's where it gets a little more nuanced. Just because somebody is confident, just because somebody does something hard, just because they push themselves out of their comfort zone, doesn't mean that they're not still struggling internally. And I think that's something that we miss a lot as people, not just when we're watching Survivor, but in life in general. Just because somebody is confident doesn't mean they're not insecure. Just because somebody pushes themselves out of their comfort zone and shows up doesn't mean that they're not still anxious. Just because somebody completed something hard doesn't mean that they are not still doubting themselves. Cirie's story is powerful because she wasn't suddenly fearless. She was a woman pushing herself out of her comfort zone and growing. She showed us all growth can happen when uncomfortable. Now let's talk about Ben from Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. There's one moment in particular that always stands out for me about Ben in his journey. He's sitting at camp and the fire starts snapping. And in that moment, a reaction is triggered from Ben based on his history in combat. I want to stress again that this is by no means a diagnosis of Ben. I do not know Ben personally in any way. This is just observations on a scene that was shown in an edited TV show. What we see with Ben are trauma responses. Things like hyper-awareness of surroundings, difficulty relaxing, being triggered by sensory input. And this is something I think Survivor highlights really well. This environment is not neutral. It's loud,
unpredictable, sleep deprived, constantly activating your stress response. Your nervous system never fully gets to reset.
When somebody has a history of trauma, environments like Survivor can amplify the reactions that we have in those situations. What I think Survivor does really well with Ben in this scene is that they show that trauma does not equal weakness. Trauma is our brain learning how to respond and protect us in different environments. Ben, due to his history, reacts a specific way, and then he does what he needs to do to help himself. And he helps himself so much that he goes on to win the game.
The winner of Survivor, Ben!
Let's transition now to a moment of pure human connection with Joe and Eva.
This one is powerful in a completely different way, because what stands out isn't distress, it's connection. Joe notices what's happening. He slows down. He responds in a grounded, supportive way, and Eva allows herself to be seen in that moment. That's not easy.
There's a really important aspect to this conversation as well about understanding autism and different communication styles, how to react when somebody is overwhelmed or overstimulated and needs help. And I think one of the most beautiful aspects of this scene is the fact that no one is trying to fix anything.
Instead, what we're seeing is emotional attunement, co-regulation, psychological safety, and in therapy, that's huge.
A lot of times healing doesn't come from giving somebody the perfect advice. It comes from being present enough that their nervous system is able to relax and recalibrate and take care of them again. And that's what this moment shows. Real human connection, compassion, understanding, support. And that's one of the best things that we can show, is that we just need to be present a lot of the times and let that person know that you're there, you got them, without ever saying a word. One of the most popular seasons ever of Survivor is Micronesia, and Micronesia shows us a really great example of mental health and understanding your limits when Kathy chooses to remove herself from the game because it becomes emotionally and mentally too much for her.
I think Kathy's story challenges a belief that a lot of people have, that pushing through is always the goal. But sometimes pushing through is actually harmful.
There's a concept within mental health called the window of tolerance. When you are in that window, you are able to function and cope and adapt and regulate yourself. You understand what you can do. But when you are pushed outside of that window, all of a sudden, it becomes really overwhelming and you are unable to get yourself to a point where you need to be. The healthiest thing you can do for yourself when you get pushed to that limit is not to push yourself even harder. It's to be aware. It's to take that step back. It is to remove yourself from whatever the situation is and to allow yourself time to cope, to breathe. That's not weakness. That's not giving in. That's protection. That's understanding. That's self-awareness. One of my biggest sayings with all of my clients is to learn to work with your brain, not against it. And in that concept, that also means understanding your limits. We need to know how far our brain can take it. And when we get pushed to that point, it is okay to say enough, not now, not today. Sometimes we might be able to go back and try again, but sometimes we realize, okay, that's just not for me. That's not something that my brain and my mind and my body can handle. And that is okay. There is strength in knowing your limits. I'm rounding out these 5 by talking about one of probably the most well-known mental health examples in all of Survivor, with Brandon Hance in Caramoan.
This is one of the most intense and uncomfortable moments in Survivor history. It's uncomfortable because we're watching someone become completely overwhelmed in real time. Again, no diagnosing, but we can talk about what we're seeing. We see emotional dysregulation, escalating stress response, loss of coping capacity.
One of the things that stands out to me about this moment isn't just Brandon's reaction, it's the environment that he's in. There's no real support. There's no space. There's no pause. There is no way that he can go and regulate in this moment. And it poses the question of, when is somebody pushed too far for the means of entertainment in a show like Survivor? In my personal opinion, I've always thought that Brandon should have been removed from the game prior to the challenge that they go to. From the edit and what we are shown, it is getting pushed to a point where it appears that his behaviors are becoming unsafe for those around him and himself. So what do you guys think? Did Survivor go too far in this moment for entertainment? Did they play on Brandon Hance's mental health and push it to a limit that we maybe should have stopped before it got there? Let me know in the comments what you think, because I think maybe we went a little too far in this moment.
When you look at Survivor as a whole, it creates the perfect storm for mental health challenges. You have sleep deprivation, hunger, social isolation, constant evaluation and judgment, lack of control. And when you strip away those basic needs, you don't create drama, you expose people. You see how they break down, how they rebuild, how they cope, how they connect.
And that's part of the reason I find Survivor so fascinating to watch, is because you get to see it through this real human lens. You get to see real mental health. You get to see the triumphs and the struggles. And it allows us an opportunity to really reflect on others, on how we treat them, on how we view the world, and maybe even ourselves. Now, these are just 5 examples of mental health in Survivor. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments, because I am more than happy to do a part 2 to this, because like I said, I've never missed an episode of Survivor in 25 years. So I have a lot of examples I could talk about. And if you did happen to see yourself in something in this video, just know that there is a lot of strength in mental health and being able to adapt and grow and change and survive. And it's okay if you still have some moments where you have that self-doubt, where you're not sure, where you're anxious, where you're scared, because that just means you're human, and that's okay. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe, and share. I do kind of a mix of everything here on this channel, and I'm always open to suggestions. But above anything else, I hope you find your magical balance.